You are listening to the sounds of the Right On Network.
Hello and welcome to episode 37 of On the Record Jams, brought to you by the Right On Network. I'm AJ.
I'm Arthur.
And this time on the record, we are bringing, and I'm actually holding this record, this vinyl, the Beatles' You Won't See Me on the Rubber Soul album. It is the third song, even on the American release, which I will talk about. Yes, Arthur, so Rubber Soul, what's your relationship with this album?
Well, I got put onto it by you years ago when I did my Beatles run. We talk about, I don't know what we want to call it, being immersed in an artist during the discography run, the disco run. I don't know what the cool way the kids say it now, but yeah, that was when I got into the albums of it, because the Beatles, you know, they're everywhere, man. So it's like you get a chance to hear them without, you don't even have to be quote unquote into them to know a lot of their music. But I think that does them a disservice. And I feel that way about most, good artists, and certainly the great artists like these guys. You're better off, man, jumping into those albums, hearing everything in the context it was. Sure, we don't have the benefit of being able to go back to 1965. We're older guys, but we're not quite that old. But yeah, my relationship with it was through that playthrough. And of course, you hear Michelle has been sampled, interpolated a lot in the hip hop space. So that one is an easy one to know as soon as you hear it. But yeah, that's my relationship with this album. So you putting this on the record gave me an excuse to go back and run through this again and get back into that period of time in their career with my older, more sophisticated ears.
I want to talk more about this, of course. Before we jump into it, I want to thank our Patreon subscribers, because they are the reason why this here feed on the Record Jams exists. And they went to patreon.com/RightOnNetwork. I'll put the link in the show notes. That's Alan Wright. He's Bold Outlaw. He runs a Robin Hood podcast. It's called BoldOutlaw.com. He writes about Robin Hood and pop culture and history. We have DJ Merc Bandwidth, Delvin Sims, DJ Merc. He's a sounder of the Right On Network, and check out his music on any other music platforms. Merc Bandwidth. We have the podcrasher himself, Tim Price. Check out his podcast, The Outcasters Avengers Under Siege. Outcasters Under Siege. Tim Price. Cluck Trent, friend of the Right On Network. Kevin Federkoski. We have Mark Blair. Check him out on the Checkmate podcast. Paul Hicks over in Australia. Hello, you gotta love the Paul. Laurel Phillips, you can hear her on the Huntress podcast. We have the Irredeemable Shag. He's over at the Fire and Water Podcast Network. He has JSA Presents. There's Cheers Cast. You go to a search engine, type in Fire and Water Podcast Network, and if you're into comics, pop culture, movies, TV, music, they have something there for you. The Irredeemable Shag. Justin Steiner, he's Shoot Fly Pie on Substack. He blogs about music. He knows a lot about power pop music in the early 2000s. We have Rick from Jeff and Rick Present, Unpacking the Power of Power Pack. Chris Pine 1, you can hear him on this feed, because this feed shares a slot with 30 Minutes to Get Back, where we are covering the Get Back documentary by Peter Jackson about the Beatles putting together songs to perform and record. 30 Minutes to Get Back, where we're covering that documentary 30 minutes at a time. Chris Pine 1. Bill Beer of the Bat Pod. April 5K, you can check her out on the Manhattan Project, talking about Seinfeld and Friends. The great Jordan Holt and Clinton Robinson of Fan Film Fridays and Coffee and Comics. Thank you guys for going to patreon.com/RightOnNetwork. And if you want to support the podcast, there's other ways of doing it. Like go to Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, write a review for us, rate it so we can find those other music lovers and we can talk about some music and some jamming, man. Okay, so I wanted to we're doing You Won't See Me by the Beatles. This is episode 37. I've wanted to do this song before we even started, so this has been a long time coming. I'm a big Beatles fan, and this is one of my favorite songs by them. They never performed this live as a group, which I think is a tragedy. There are times I feel like, because here's the deal. We like music, and even if we try not to, rankings get involved. But when someone asks me, what's your favorite Beatles album? To me, their albums is like the encyclopedia, where it's like, hey, which one's your favorite? Z or L? Like, they come as a set. So, like, when you lose one, you feel like, the whole set's messed up. So I think with the Beatles discography, it's a collection. Now, Rubber Soul, there used to be a time where I just definitively said this is my favorite album, because I feel like this is their last, like, we are a band, all together, a group, all for one for all. This is the last effort. And then after that, it starts really getting into their personalities, like, hey, I'm John Lennon, you're my backup band. I'm Paul McCartney, you're my backup band, and so forth and so on. So I used to always say Rubber Soul is my favorite. Then I would bounce around with the White Album, but now I'm just like, I just enjoy them all one as a set. I want to talk about this because you texted me this, Arthur, before we get into You Won't See Me. You're like, oh, there was this American release and Drive My Car's not on there. You found that out, right?
Yep. Yeah, I didn't appreciate it either. I was like, I'm glad when I did this re-listen, I was listening and I went to go get a little bit more information, and that got highlighted to me. And then it kind of points out, like, man, this is the era of going from people aren't thinking about the albums as much, right? Like, I think a lot of times when people look back at music and these classic artists and these classic albums, a lot of discussion goes into the albums. Like you just mentioned, unsolicited, right? Like people asking you to rank the albums. And I think for this period of time, especially, you almost have to think, hey guys, like they cared so differently about the albums than we do now. Looking back, like they're playing around with track lists. These people having 2 and 3 albums in the same year. Even if you think about Rubber Soul, what we've been told is like, yeah, they put that together across like a month, which for them is like the equivalent of slinging it together compared to how long they normally labor over a lot of their stuff. So it's an interesting thing to think how that happened, because you got Help in August of 65 and you get Rubber Soul in December of 1965. So you're talking a handful of months, like they pulled a DMX on us and went back to back with those albums. So depending on the release, I think Drive My Car is on Help, if I understand that right. Or am I thinking about that wrong?
No, Drive My Car, it's on Rubber Soul. It's just that I have this vinyl release where side 1, song 1, it should be Drive My Car, but it's I've Just Seen a Face.
Yeah, that's right. So they played with the sequencing.
Yes. So I've Seen a Face. That's not on the original album at all, because I'm barely familiar with that song. According to this, it's Norwegian Wood, The Bird Has Flown, John with Paul, George on sitar. So this was, the thing about Rubber Soul is it's when people really started going like, hey, this is more than just a collection of songs. This seemed like there's like some extra texture layering, like, hey, let's craft this as an album. And sometimes, as far as the pop world, this Rubber Soul is really seen as like, yeah, it's some art going on here. And as far as Western music, Norwegian Wood is the first time sitar is displayed on there, because like you mentioned, within the year they recorded the album Help, and they also, a movie accompanied it, and they shot scenes in India. It really changed the trajectory of George Harrison's life, and he has the sitar on this Norwegian Wood. You Won't See Me is the third song with John and George. Paul on piano, organ by Mal Evans. It says Evans on Hammond. That's Mal Evans. You'll see him all throughout the Get Back documentary. Think for Yourself by George. The Word. The Word is good. Remember that song, The Word, Arthur?
Oh, yeah.
Man, it seemed kind of spiritual, right?
Yep.
Michelle. I don't know why, like, when I hear Michelle, I think about Stevie Wonder.
Really?
Yeah, it makes me think of Stevie Wonder. It's Only Love. And that's something, too. I think, wait a minute, yeah, this album's totally different. It's Only Love is not on Rubber Soul, that proper Rubber Soul. And this is also during the...
Come correct us.
This is, yeah, right into ontherecordjams@gmail.com. This is also during the time period where, okay, we're putting out a single specifically, and that single will not be on the album. So if that hadn't been the case, We Can Work It Out would have been on this, which I already think highly of Rubber Soul. If We Could Work It Out was on there as well, woo. All right. Girl. All right. I think John Lennon talked about the song Girl is also kind of taking on like Catholicism as far as like you have to go through some pain to experience pleasure, and he plays around with that. And then they're cheeky when they're throwing in the tit, 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 tit. I'm Looking Through You, another one led by Paul McCartney. In My Life, to me, I call that the Tupac song of the Beatles. George Martin on piano. Wait, and that's some good back and forth going on with John and Paul. It sounds like a song that was from an earlier time for them. And then Run for Your Life. Think for Yourself by George Harrison. He uses the word opaque on that record. George Harrison did. So, okay, this album is produced by George Martin. Guys, You Won't See Me. This album is 1965. All right? And I love this song. I love this record, You Won't See Me. And I was talking to Arthur about Paul McCartney. He was dating Jane Asher. And then, that relationship went, it's separate ways. And Paul McCartney is really hurting from it. So I feel like, like a simple version of this, because going back to what you were saying, when I was growing up, we didn't play Beatles music in my household. So really the only Beatles music I knew was from, like, when they would have those, hey, we're going to sell you this CD or this record with like these 60s songs. And it's just like a collection of songs. And I Want to Hold Your Hand would be on there. Love Me Do. There was a movie called Can't Buy Me Love with Patrick Dempsey, and they threw that song on there. I think that was about it. Like, back then, I guess the Beatles, they had the licenses really tight because their music wasn't just thrown on movies. I remember on Sonic commercials, they played Beach Boy songs. I didn't hear Beatles music in Sonic commercials, the fast food restaurant in America. So I didn't really start getting acquainted. I remember in high school, our mutual friend Kevin, he gave me the Magical Mystery Tour. So I was like, oh man, this is pretty far out, but that's a weird way to be introduced to this band. And I never really explored further. I was like into the Doors and stuff and like 1990s New York rap music. And then boom, in late 90s, 1998, 1999, I just started slowly but surely going through Beatles stuff. So I remember I got the White Album, and on there was Obla Di Obla Da, and I was like, wait a minute, that song they were singing at the beginning of Life Goes On with Corky, that was the Beatles? I'm like, I didn't know that. So like, there were a couple of times where I was like, oh, that's the Beatles? I never knew that. But with Rubber Soul and Revolver, I never heard those songs before in my life. So when I was slowly but surely going through their albums, I was getting my head blown because I was like, yeah, I never heard of this stuff because I also feel like there was this kind of backlash towards the Beatles. It was like, oh, we're Beatle fatigue. So in the 80s, people were going their own way. I remember on the Clash album with London Calling, he says, phony Beatlemania or whatever. And with, Paul McCartney, working musician, he was a strict, like, I'm not playing any Beatles songs. And then once we started getting into like 1995, 1996, it was this huge Beatles revival. And I remember like it was a big deal that Kurt Cobain was saying like, oh, I love the Beatles. And I remember they were making a big deal like, oh my gosh, this kind of grunge punk rocker, he's admitting to loving the Beatles. I remember like it was this big deal that he would even admit it. So boom, once we get into the 2000s, yeah, it's Beatles stuff all over the place. They're finally saying like, yeah, Apple, you can have our music on there. So it's just readily accessible, right? This You Won't See Me, all of the Paul McCartney songs, I feel like they're about that breakup with Jane Asher, even going into the next Revolver. So this is situations where John Lennon, he's kind of written as, especially those early years, the leader, the rocker. And Paul McCartney, he's doing these wop bam doo bop, wop bam boom impressions and all this stuff, and it seems all cutesy. But then I feel like when we get to Rubber Soul, We Can Work It Out, You Won't See Me, the songs that's on Looking Through You, I feel like, okay, he's been pierced through the heart, and now he's singing from a place of realness. What do you think about that? Do you hear that here? Or is it just, and it is, pop lush?
It is pop lush. It's wild to think. And again, we talk about how when you look back, people make some assumptions that aren't true, right? Like the idea that all these albums were all these super heavily crafted things and they were specifically trying to do something with the music. And sometimes what happens, especially with bands, and you hear about people that do podcasts now, like some of the 70s guys and the 80s guys that, we're lucky enough to still have around, and they do podcasts, and a lot of what they say sounds kind of like this. Like, hey, if I'm in a band, I play, and I'm doing shows, and I'm working on stuff. And then we hit a moment where we're like, okay, we've been kind of working on stuff. We've been doing these shows. Let's take a break from doing shows and get the music together if we can. And then you kind of take what you learned on the road and try to put it into your next album. And like those things, like that's what I hear in Rubber Soul. That's also what I hear in this specific song. Because when you get to that point as an artist, and some artists start this way now because people have so many different things to look back on. But now people look at it like, oh yeah, you were inspired by this, inspired by that. But that was kind of a bold thing to do back in this period of time because it was almost like making music was a job, right? Like my job as a musician, if I have a couple of hits, I make a few dollars, I buy a house, everything will be cool. The idea of musicians being like colossal, I can't go anywhere without getting tackled type stars, like that wasn't something that had just been going on at that level before the Beatles came through and had their run, right? Like, is that fair to say? So you're asking these guys to react to that real time with no backstory for that. We talk about that. I bring it up a lot when I talk about Michael Jackson and Prince in the 80s because it's that same concept except now with an increased visibility because you have the videos. And now it's like you're making the videos, you got to dance, you got to do all this stuff, you got to have plot points in your videos and all of this. And it's like people start thinking they know you. And then now the cat is, I don't even know what to say the cat is now because it's so far beyond out of the bag now that people really do think they know these folks because they heard 3 of their songs. And people have to react to that and they have to build that into their career. And some of these guys try to be online all the time, always doing the tweets, always doing the jokes, always trying to quote unquote engage with the fans. And some of these other guys are like, hey, whoa, 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 whoa. They're almost rolling it back to pre-Beatles and saying, my job is to make jam and stuff. And if you like it, sweet. That means I did my job. But my job is not to give you my whole life. My job is not to give you personal anecdotes in my music. I might do it, I might not. But if I'm doing it, I'm kind of doing it for me. And you see artists like taking that other angle from it, 60 years later, seeing all the history that they have to draw back on. But all of that to say, like here, yeah, man, you could just hear the growth. I read something about Bob Dylan being an inspiration, and also thinking about what Dylan meant to the musical universe at that time versus the Beatles. The Beatles were the pop guys, like the first super duper pop guys. So they dealt with what people deal with now. If you sell a bunch of records, people almost try to act like you're a lesser artist because you succeeded at selling records, which I always struggle with that, right? Like, to me, I'm like, jams is jams. And if you just happen to make a jam that hits more people at the same time, then you just end up being the one to sell a bunch of records. Or if you have a label, or if you have the resources, or you just, sometimes it's just pockets, right? Like, you could just show up at the right time with the right thing that people didn't know they needed it till you gave it to them. And then you become a bigger thing than maybe you planned to be, right?
Speaking of that, as far as with the Bob Dylan stuff, when the Beatles, they come out in 1963 with the Please Please Me, it was like, oh, they're doing this guitar, bass, drum, electric guitar rock. This won't last long. This is a fad. And with the rise of Bob Dylan, he was written as like, hey, this is a serious artist. This is for real. So that's when, like Beatles for Sale, there's more acoustic going on, kind of showing like, hey, we're not just pop guys. Like, we can do chord progression songwriting as well. And then when we get to this album, it's a lot of that going on, like the storytelling, a beginning, middle, and end, songwriting, acoustic. And they're also competing against the Beach Boys, where the Beach Boys are doing some extra texture with the arrangements and the harmonies. So you hear a lot of that on this album. And then it gets on what people like to say on the steroids on the next album. And the Beatles, the Beach Boys, they release Pet Sounds. So the Beatles like, hey, we'll do you one more better. We'll do Sgt. Pepper. So it's like all these things going on. Now, I can't remember because in the 90s, there was this documentary where they interviewed the three remaining living Beatles at that time, and they were played concert footage and all this stuff. It was Beatles Anthology. You get the DVDs. There's like a big old box set. It came with these multi-disc CD sets where it was all these demos and like this song, take 2, this song, take 3. I was eating that stuff up with a spoon. But I bought the transcript to those interviews, and I remember specifically they talked about, I don't know where I read this, You Won't See Me. It was some type of like Motown hit at the time with our bass line and piano, and that's what Paul McCartney was kind of going for. And we have this. So these are the lyrics to You Won't See Me. Paul McCartney is doing the lead, and Arthur, this for me, I talk about this all the time. I love background vocals, hand claps, piano, that kind of stuff. Multiple singers, and they're doing it all here. And I'm just very surprised that You Won't See Me is not touted much. But it's not like the songs that this song's like. This song is competing with like stars and quasars and stuff. So I can see how it can get overshadowed. But man, oh gosh, all right. So it says
it's executed well, man. It's
executed well. Yeah, like you said, like this whole album, especially this song to me, you said they're in the pocket. It's like
Yes,
everybody's
they
on the
are.
same page. Yeah,
Yeah, and like you said, and that's a big deal for a band, and so that's why you talk about this being their last full album as a cohesive, unified unit before too many people started wearing scarves, right, and growing beards, and you
yeah,
know, I mean, and
yeah.
this,
You're
and we've
right.
seen it now for 60 years, right? Like we've seen this. What happens? You get big, you start thinking about it too much, and then maybe that some of that quote unquote we were just doing it for the love stuff just kind of goes away, and then it becomes more of a business thing and more people trying to get their stuff in. I mean, we heard that story again and again. So many bands, so many groups. Didn't matter whether it was family, didn't matter whether it was American or otherwise, didn't matter if it was 2 guys, 7 guys, 8 guys, 2 girls, family, doesn't matter. Like people start thinking about it too much, and so it's like when you listen to Rubber Soul and view it through that prism, it's like okay, you can hear it in the music, you can kind of hear the harmony in the harmonies because
Wow.
everybody's in on it. You know what I mean? Like, hey, we're hitting this thing. This is what the song is about, and especially during this period of time, like if you were gonna do background vocals, you weren't like just throwing it in there, right? It wasn't like a bucket of paint thrown against the wall. Like you arranged those vocals in there. And I think that's the gift. So when I hear about you talking about liking background vocals so much, I try to unpack that and figure out why. And I think I tie this to your love for 60s music, where there's a lot of arranging going on.
Yes.
Whereas when you get to the 70s, I love the 70s before what I'm about to say. But man, the 70s was self indulgent. There's guys in there getting some. There's dudes in the studio by themselves giving big, crazy budgets. They're sitting around hooting and hollering. They got more technology. They can punch in. They're doing all this stuff with the vocals because now they have more space, figuratively and literally, because they have the technology to do it. They have the budget to do it. They have their own studios at their houses, and all of that stuff is starting to happen more in the 70s. So to me, you get more indulgence, which means maybe you don't try as hard to figure out how those background vocals are going to come in. Maybe it's just, it's been too long since I sang something. I'm in the group. I'm finna show up hollering now. And not to say that that goes bad, because that can work too. But like in the 60s, it feels more, I'm going to use the word arrange, and I'm using that word as a compliment. Because when it hits, like in this song, we can point it out when you go through the lyrics. But like, man, when those background vocals hit, you're like, oh, that's exactly what that needed to be right there. They set that up.
And you know, and talk about the Beatles being students of the game, Arthur. How did they learn how to do those arrangements?
Of course, they listened and they didn't play it off, right? Like it depending on who you ask, the whole idea of the album being called Rubber Soul is like, dude, we're not soul artists, we're not R&B artists. We heard somebody else do it, and this is our little plastic. This is like a wink at us trying to do that, and we're gonna do it. We're gonna do justice to it, but we know this isn't our thing, so we're stepping into somebody else's thing. But
Yeah.
you can't do that without doing the work.
Yes. Oh well, exactly. So it's one of those things where, like, yeah, someone says something about Mick Jagger. They're like, yeah, he has like a plastic soul. So they're like, oh, okay, that's cool, Rubber Soul. And then like there's, you said, like, kind of stepping in someone else's shoes. They're like, oh yeah, there's a double entendre because like the sole of a shoe, it's rubber. Oh, plastic soul, rubber soul. Hey, you know, all this stuff. You know, they're
Yeah.
called the Beatles, but it's spelled Beat, the backbeat. Like they love like jokes and playing around and all that stuff. So yeah, this is in the movie Help, which is also the soundtrack, the album before this one. In one of the scenes, they're performing "You're Gonna Lose That Girl." They're in the studio, and John is singing the lead, and Paul and George are doing the background vocals. They're sharing a mic, looking in each other's faces. It's enclosed space. So that's something else. Like, I love the Beatles when they do the mic sharing. All right. So when I call you up, your line's engaged. I've had enough, so at your age. We have lost the time that was so hard to find, and I will lose my mind if you won't see me. And then these background vocals, you won't see me. And what I like about this too is there's times where it's like, okay, we're going to do background vocals, but it's the lead singer double track and doing that stuff. With them, it really is John and George. Now, when John and George, when they harmonize, they kind of can make themselves sound similar. So you might go, is it really both of them? But Paul and George are different. So, but I like when not only is it two people doing background vocals, I can hear that it's those two people. That's why sometimes I don't mind the messiness of the 70s. Like when those background vocals come in late, or it really does, they're not really harmonizing, it's just two people hollering. I kind of like that too, and I talked about that on that Pinkerton album by Weezer.
Yes. And you think Weezer doesn't pay attention to this too? Like the stuff the Beatles is doing with the double entendres, the jokes, we're in on it. We're in on our own joke. We're serious, but we're not as serious as you think, but we're serious. And we got jokes in between the seriousness. So you never know when we're going from one to the other, but that's a part of our thing. And if you like us, then you should like that, and you should live with that.
You're right about that. Weezer, they do have that kind of humor sensibility, while, Rivers is thinking, hey, we're trying to be a 90s garage Beach Boys.
Yeah, one more thing about that notice, this on these lyrics. When I call you up, your line's engaged. So we're talking about, like, for the kids out there, we're talking about call waiting or lack of call waiting. Everybody didn't have call waiting. So if you were on the phone and somebody called you while you're on the phone, they would get a busy signal. Like, you can't talk to this person because they're already on the phone.
Good point. So, yeah, this is a song that's crystallized in time. Because, yeah, you're right about that. What do you mean when I call you up, your line's engaged? Explain that to me. Yes. So, man, I have the magazine somewhere here. It's a Rolling Stone magazine where it was when George Harrison passed away. And there's a writer, man, I'm sorry, I can't remember his name. He wrote this article about, like, hey, like how George Harrison, there's sometimes where, hey, I'm in the Beatles, but like even George Harrison, he made the joke like, hey, Ringo and I were the economy Beatles. So in this, because it's like, wait a minute, the Beatles, they're the most popular thing. Like, they're pretty cool. And Paul McCartney's going through heartbreak? Like, he's experiencing this? And I think before this album, I'm going, man, I don't believe that. Like, man, it's this gorgeous, gorgeous lady, and she's singing about, like, hard times in dating. I'm like, I don't believe that. With this, but on this, I believe it. I believe it. So it goes, I don't know why you should want to hide, but I can't get through. My hands are tied. I want to stay. I don't have much to say, but I get turned away, and you won't see me. And within that is all that ooh, la, 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 ooh, la, la. And the Beatles, they do this a lot, where it's like, hey, when all else fails, just do Women Doo-Wop. They do it every time.
And we might not start out with it, but we're going to throw it in there. We're going to figure out when we start doing it, and then we're going to do it. Because, like, for this one, they started with the second verse with it, because they didn't do it in the first verse.
Good point. And you won't see me, you won't see me, you won't see me. And then time after time, you refuse to even listen. I wouldn't mind if I knew what I was missing. Then you get the background vocals go, no, I wouldn't, no, I wouldn't. And then how they're doing the ooh underneath his singing. Come on, guys.
Yes. Execution.
See, this is the time I think when they went, we're not going to tour anymore. We'll just send videos and stuff. But man, if they would have went on like a television show or whatever and did this performance, though the days are few, they're filled with tears. And since I've lost you, it feels like years. Yes, it seems so long, girl, since you've been gone, and I just can't go on if you won't see me. You won't see me. Getting really emo there.
Very emo.
Or
This is
just
normal
R&B.
now. People do this
It's
all
just,
the time now.
It's just R&B, you know? All right. Time after time, you refuse to even listen. I wouldn't mind if I knew what I was missing. No, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't. Though the days are few, they're filled with tears. And since I lost you, it feels like years. Yes, it seems so long, girl, since you've been gone. And I just can't go on if you won't see me. And then when they, and in the end, they're doing the sign off. This is songwriters Paul McCartney and John Lennon. I think this song is extra special. I think there's extra texture there. That piano, oh man, the background vocals, the kind of R&B kind of soul to it. And this is an album cut, right? This isn't even one of the singles.
Nope. But when you're in the pocket, man, and you start putting together those songs, man, we've heard a lot of stories about this in the past where sometimes these groups, even the groups that want to take a long time and worry about every little strum, and they want to add a sitar here and they want to put something else over there, and they want to really mix it up and do everything that the technology will allow them to do, layer in vocals, you name it. It's just these guys came off tour, they were tired, and they were dealing with what now artists deal with all the time. Somebody rolling up saying, dude, where's that other album at? We need some more albums. And it seemed like during this time, I couldn't imagine them telling somebody no, right? Until they got to the point where they had to just stop altogether. But you think about how long they made it. Even though they had to make it the way they had to make it, they started doing separate stuff, stopped touring and all that. But yeah, for them to roll up after Help comes out and then put this together and put it out, for them to still be true to what they were trying to do, because they were kind of feeling the heat for being popular, but they were trying to quote unquote music it up, compete with their contemporaries, but also get their stuff in. You got a guy going through a breakup during the time. You're getting ready to write some songs. You're like, yeah, I'm putting it in there. Yeah, let's do that. And you didn't have to do that back then. And now you think about the way music works. People get upset with you when you don't do it now. Like imagine a singer going through a divorce and then makes an album and there's nothing on that song, on that album about a divorce of any kind. Yeah. People wouldn't accept that at all.
Wow. Yeah, you're right about that. So, okay, at the Right On Network and on this feed, I mentioned before that we have this other show, 30 Minutes to Get Back. And even though that whole show is about the Beatles, Chris and I, we're not glazing them. We're not saying this is the best band ever. But the one thing, and also you were talking about this, how the thing about that production, it was all about them saying, okay, we're going to go back to basics, write songs from scratch, and no studio wizardry. So when you're saying like, hey, we got to do these arrangements because we don't have the space to kind of experiment or play around or mess up and fix it, just 4 tracks. You have 4 tracks. What are you going to do? You got to make them, you got to go for it, right? So that's what I like about this too. Like it's tight. It's in the pocket. And the thing about the Beatles and this song right here, You Won't See Me, like I don't play music. I don't write music. I feel like this song is a good, like, how-to do a pop song. This is a great how-to. I feel like, and like the Beatles, they sound like children's music. Like a lot of their songs, it sounds like, hey, we want to introduce like kids, they're in primary school to like music structure and like how songs are given. And a lot of their music, now some music they have, it specifically sounds like it's for kids, like Yellow Submarine, that sounds like, yeah, kid stuff. But even something like this, like we're saying it's R&B and it's soul, but it also sounds like 1, 2, 3 ABC. This is how you do music. Like guys, I like crazy stuff. I like weird Radiohead music and all that, but like, okay, I don't have a kid, but like, hey, I'm driving in the car with my kid. The kid's 7. Let me throw on this crazy Radiohead music. Not yet. Not yet. But with the Beatles, it does sound like Paul McCartney is like, hey, man, they would say, why, man, how did you write such memorable music? We were making it memorable so we could remember it, so we could play it. We're keeping it simple. We had to crank these suckers out. Like, we just came off of a movie, and we got to release another album within a year. Like, I had to learn lines from a movie. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, during that period of time where you don't have as much technology to bail you out, even if you think about something as simple as air travel, going from town to town was a different process during that time. That now, we think about moving around the world or the country now, no matter where you're living at. Like, that was logistics was an issue more so then than now. So these guys were working, man.
What do you think as far as the placement on this album? It comes up third. It's pretty early. You like the placement of You Won't See Me?
I think so. I mean, I can understand why they wanted to play with the order of it, because the order I just listened to over the last couple of days is the UK order. So starting off with Drive My Car. So I can understand why, but when you listen to the album, it didn't seem like they were trying to tell a chronological story. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, everything's great, things go sideways. Now at the end, it's like, You Won't See Me, Run for Your Life. Like, they could have done that. And we know a lot of artists in the future after this did that. They wanted to make it a little bit more tangible of like, I want to bring you through the highs and lows and all of that. But yeah, I think I was fine with the sequencing in this specific time. But again, imagine if this album comes out, Beatles or no Beatles, if this album comes out 10 years later, it's probably 20 minutes longer and in a different order.
Mm-hmm. So, okay, Paul McCartney, he is a piano bass man. I have this on Wikipedia, and this is what I do remember reading in that book, and we're talking 2001. McCartney described its music as very Motown flavored with a feel inspired by Motown bassist James Jamerson. Talking about for this song, You Won't See Me specifically. The verse used the same chord sequence as the Four Tops hit It's the Same Old Song. Remember, it's the same old song with a different beat.
Yes.
I'm sorry I was singing, guys. I don't know how it was so hard not to sing You Won't See Me. Sorry. Which was
you should have went ahead and done it.
I know. Like it was hard for me not to do those background vocals, but I didn't do it. Which was titled by its writers Holland, Dozier, and Holland team. An acknowledgement that they had already used the same pattern in their composition. I can't help myself. I can't help myself. See, yeah, that's the stuff when I was a kid. I heard that a lot because, especially when we were kids growing up in the 80s, it was that 50s, 60s revival. So we heard that music in movies, commercials, TV shows, what have you. So I was way more familiar with that. But yeah, does that make sense now? Does that make this song make even more sense to you or what?
That makes even more sense, right? Like I take them at face value that they knew what they were doing and they had their bands that they loved, that they wanted to try to be like. I think people need to understand that like chord progressions and chords and riffs, they get reused all over the place all the time. Like when people talk about sampling in the hip hop space, it's like, dude, it's just sampling without the musicians. But like if you take somebody's riff or somebody's chord or somebody's melody and put some different words on it, it's kind of sampling. It's kind of what sampling is. You're thinking about the essence of some other song that you like, and you're trying to siphon some of that to help create your song. Like, so it's not exactly the same thing, but it's trees in the same forest. So it's just a matter of how people go about executing it. Are they sneaky about it? Do they just do it out in the open? And I think the coolest thing is when you get these musicians that know, right? Like we're music lovers. We listen to a lot of music, but I'm not going to tell you I'm reading sheet music over here. And I'm not going to say I can hear a chord. I mean, I've just gotten barely to the point where I could do time and signatures and just count it off and be like, okay, that's another 4 on the floor song. Because most songs are 4 on the floor. But yeah, I like that they did it. I like that because I think it's that the honesty of it. And I think people sometimes get credit for that. And sometimes people get slagged for it. And if you're super popular, then I don't know why people act like if you're super popular, you just got to sit in a room like with no lights on and play by yourself. And nothing you come up with can be like what anybody else has ever done. But that's not how life works, and that's not how music works. So it makes perfect sense to me that they would love the Motown guys. And not to mention, Motown had a habit of having a big factory feel, aka cranking out a lot of songs in a short period of time. So it makes sense if you were making the music around the same time and you liked those musicians and you were like, man, we're about to get our crank on. These people want us to give them another album, but we got some stuff we want to say. We're seeing Bob Dylan over here doing this stuff. We don't want to look bad compared to him. We do a different thing, but we could do some of the stuff that he's doing, and we got our harmonizing and we got our stuff, and we're a band too. So let's try to do some band stuff. So I like all of it.
Certain songs that the Four Tops covered by the Beatles, Michelle, Gotta Get You Into My Life, which is very it sounds like some R&B hit. The Long and Winding Road, Eleanor Rigby, The Fool on the Hill. On this Get Back documentary, there's a part where Paul McCartney, he's at the piano and he's telling this young man, like, hey, you hear what I'm playing now? Now look how easily this song can go into this other song. And then look how I'm doing this, and then it goes into this other song. And he was just saying, like, hey, it's just, these arrangements is this. But he said, like all of music history is just on this piano right here. It's all right here.
Yep, there's only so many chords, man. Like, you're right. People can do weird stuff. People can play with time and signatures. People can have more than one time and signature in the same song. Like, they could do cutesy stuff, but a lot of times, man, those chords are what they are. Because, yeah, I mean, Gotta Get You Into My Life is Revolver, right?
That's right, buddy. Yes. With them horns.
So, yeah. So, those horns came in, and me growing up, the first time I heard this song was not the Beatles version. It was the Earth, Wind, and Fire version.
Boom.
Because they covered it several years later.
That's right. Yeah, the Beatles, man. Paul McCartney, the piano bass man. He's the bass man. Like, pretty generous because, he wants to play guitar. But John's like, I'm not going to do bass. And George Harrison, like, hey, I'm the guitar guy in this group. So he's like, okay, I'll do bass. And, like, very melodic, a lot of interesting things going on. He's playing piano on this. Man, this is You Won't See Me. The Jane Asher Chronicles things are, the lines are crossed. The message isn't getting around. There's miscommunication going on. And then, went their separate ways. I've never seen any of Jane Asher's movies. I know that she was in Alfie. In Alfie, it has, I know in Alfie, that's what Michael Caine came out in the 60s. And I know what's big about that movie is that he was speaking with his Cockney accent. And folks pretty much say, like, since that point on, anytime someone who wasn't Cockney that did it in a movie or TV, they were basically just doing a Michael Caine impression. You know how that goes.
Yes. Oh, yeah, man. That's that back in the day Michael Caine right there, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
66.
Jane Asher, red hair, man. I'd be writing songs as well.
You'd be mad too. You'd be able to play that piano super hard.
I'd be playing Michelle. I would be playing Looking Through You. Okay, yes. I would be playing The Day Breaks, My Mind Aches. I would be having a French horn solo going on in my song on Revolver. French horn solo.
I mean, when this album came out, I mean, what are we talking about? These guys are like 22, 25, like up in that range, right? Like,
yes.
They're
about
like
25 at this
veterans. Point. Yeah, like these aren't veterans of the game that have been dealing with heartbreaks for 20 years. Like, this is fresh. So it makes sense that it would make it into the music. But again, during this time, especially for those guys to take those type of chances and put that stuff in there, I think they've gotten plenty of flowers, right? So don't leave it up to us. It's not like we're the first people to be like, hey, guys, the Beatles are awesome. But I hope people don't do the thing, right? Like, hey, these guys sold a bunch of albums. Hey, there was Beatlemania. Mania. Well, now let's try to disparage everything they were doing. It's like, dude, put yourself, like, that context is really important. Like, for this to be a 1965 album, it does not sound like that. It sounds like they were scratching on the surface of doing something that then became kind of the default that a lot of people, it was almost like a paid in full thing. If what I'm saying makes sense, right? Yeah. Like, rapping was happening. There was hip hop, hippity hop. There was Curtis Blow. There was all this stuff. And then, like, Paid in Full comes out. And that's the type of album where people sat around listening to that as rappers. And they were like, oh, so I kind of can't rap the way I just got through rapping now. I pretty much got to change the way I do my stuff. And I think people look at Rubber Soul similar in that way. Like, oh, you can mix stuff together? Oh, you can sing about your personal stuff? Oh, and we can try to make an album and we don't got to sit around for 6 months trying to figure it out. We can bang it out and put it together but make it a real album and don't cheat and have 4 covers on there. Like, we could do it like this? Sheesh, let's do it.
Well, I want to be careful saying the cheat covers thing, because there is an art to that, and at that time you still don't know, like, wait a minute, so we can do our own songs? So so I don't want to say, you know what I'm talking about? I would be careful with that.
I mean,
because you just don't know, like, because that used to be a big thing where it was like, man, you covered like with Jimi Hendrix, him covering All Along the Watchtower and Hey Joe, he made it so Bob Dylan's like, I can't even do that song anymore because it don't belong to me anymore.
Right. It can be done really, really well, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, don't let me hate on covers as a blanket thing. But practically speaking, yeah, if you're trying to come out with a 9-song album and you got 6 songs, and people start touching their chin, like, ooh, oh, man. I don't know if I got no more songs, dude.
Shit. Shoot, the Beatles, y'all better have some songs. You got 4 songwriters. Y'all better be able to come up with 12.
Right.
Shoot, George Harrison want to give y'all 4. Y'all won't let him.
Right.
Now, on the next album, Revolver, George Harrison is going to get the opening track. He's going to get 3 songs on the album, and he's going to get a song featured on a B-side of one of the singles. So Revolver, they're letting them cook. And then we get to Sgt. Pepper, he gets 1 song. The space between us.
Yeah, man. Keeping a band together, man, like, it's so much that can be learned about bands and albums and keeping stuff together just by looking at these guys. And again, for whatever people want to pretend that they're too cool to like them or whatever, but they need to get over it, because these guys are awesome. And it's crazy to think that they made it as far as they did. and they made as many albums as they did, and especially when it became very clear through documentaries that they made willingly themselves that things weren't 100% going great. It wasn't like everybody was hanging out having the time of their lives. Like there was issues, there was, I'm joking, talking about people growing beards and wearing scarves, but you get just big enough to where you start thinking, well, I kind of want to do my thing. And then the other three people you look at them and they got on scarves too. And you're like, oh, wait, y'all want to do y'all's thing? Yeah, I was just going to come to talk to you about how I wanted to do my thing. But what about our thing? And it's like, well, yeah, our thing is kind of, that's cool. But what about my thing? And then groups couldn't imagine like breaking up, doing solo stuff and coming back together, right? Like people do that now, and it's just as long as nobody says anything too sideways during the breakup time, usually the get back together thing can happen almost easily now, depending on what led to the breakup,
And there wasn't a roadmap for their career. Paul McCartney talks about like, hey, when I was growing up, there was no such thing as rock and roll. So that's why, like, sometimes, like, you'll catch me, I'm doing show tunes or I'm doing, like, old-timey music. They're like, hey, why are you doing that? Like, oh, that was the music my dad was playing. And when I was growing up, there was no such thing as rock and roll. And then for them to do all the stretching the boundaries thing, like, hey, what if we did this pseudo-concept album? What if we were doing studio tricks? What if we went back to basics and got very bluesy, very muddy? Oh, can you do that? We don't know. Yeah, I guess you can do that. Sure. Wait, but can we do as a rock band a full blown thing with no covers? Like, can we do that or can we? Yeah, I guess we can. And can we wait 6 months or a year before releasing the next album? I guess, yeah. Yeah, I guess we can. Sure, yeah. So, yeah, there was a lot of that going on. And, they've known each other and been playing since they were teenagers. So, like, yeah, hey, my team, they're getting in my ear. They're going like, dude, you're bigger than this. And then his team, they're getting his ear going, hey, man, you bigger than this. Why don't you go?
He only gave you one song? Come on, man.
Come on, Black. Come on, Jack. Because that's what happened with George Harrison. In the Summer of Love, he went out to America, and they're like, hey, he's not one of the members of the Beatles. Hey, he's George. So it's like, oh, man, yeah, they were respecting me. I wasn't just the Beatles' little brother. I'm George. And then I come back to do this Get Back thing, and we're in this cold barn, and I'm in here with these the egomaniacs. No, I'm just joking. But I'm in here with these people where I had to elbow my way inside the loud to get on. And I got to elbow these guys just to get a song on, where when we break up, I'm going to release a triple album. They said that I was the quiet Beatle. That was a misnomer. I actually have a lot to say. But it's kind of hard, getting it past these folks. You lot. So, yeah, when they broke up, and you're about to go into the 70s. Yeah, I think sometimes that does happen where some folks want to dismiss the Beatles. Like, that's kind of corny. Like, yeah, all right. All I'm saying is this. I really do feel like they're a good introduction. Because I'm always thinking about that, Arthur. I'm always thinking about, like, because we do DC podcasts, Batman stuff. Like, hey, I want to mess around with this Batman stuff. What's an easy way for me to get into this? Because there's a lot of times, like, I like Doctor Who. Some of the high-ranking episodes, they're not the best thing to introduce somebody to, because those high-ranking episodes, it's a lot of emotion behind it because there was a run-up to it. So if you just put that in somebody's hands, they're not going to get anything out of it. There's sometimes where there's certain episodes of any show, this isn't the best one, but this is the best thing to introduce somebody to. And I just think where if it's someone where like, hey, I only kind of listen to this, I think the Beatles are a good example of, hey, you don't usually listen to stuff like this. Like we were saying, like, 60s music. I think maybe this might be okay. I wouldn't throw Strawberry Fields at them, but I think You Won't See Me is pretty safe.
Yeah,
I think it's
but
pretty safe.
well executed and straight up jamming.
Straight up jam. Yeah, I mean, come on. That's why I love it. They're jamming on it, right, Arthur? They're just jamming.
They're jamming, and even if you come in like sarcastic, once those background vocals kick in at the beginning of the second verse, you better go ahead and put that guard down. You better let it get you now, cause like they're hitting it right there. And so like this is one where if you like music, this should be something that works on you.
Yeah. I don't care if you are Daria or a 1990s Gen X, Janine Garofalo, or whatever the equivalent is for Gen Z. Them background vocals kick in, it's going to make a hard rock smile. Come on now. Come on.
Come on now.
We're going to put the link in the show notes. I want you to listen to this and go, no, I'm not going to invent a straw man. That's not even going on. Everyone's going to love it. It's great. Everything is wonderful. But, man.
And if they don't like it, they won't see me. That's what I'm going to tell you. I'll tell you like that. That's what I'm going to say.
Hey, I'll say this. Not rankings, but I do believe in primer sets. I do believe in, hey, man, look. I always want to get into the Beatles. I'm not about to go on a trek real quick because, like, right now I was talking to Arthur when we were off mic on this Parliament Funkadelic trek, and I'm having fun. But they're like, hey, man, no one's doing this, but, like, put it on a CD, 12 songs, real quick. I'm putting You Won't See Me on a finite space.
Yeah. I can understand that.
Yeah. It's a CD. It's only so many songs you could put on it, but CDs you can put a lot on there. I'm going to make sure You Won't See Me's on there.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it, if you say put it to you like 80 minutes is a CD, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You can get it in there.
I'll say this. People are getting really silly, and cassette tapes have this kind of hipster comeback. The Strokes, they have this new single out, and some of the fans, I guess they signed up for the fan club or whatever, they were able to get the song on cassette tape. So that's a finite amount of space. And on the finite amount of space of a cassette tape, I'm sliding You Won't See Me on there.
Okay.
Just like I'm going to slide You Won't See Me in some of these DMs. I'm sorry. I'm okay. I'm getting loopy now. Sorry. But yeah, final thoughts about Paul McCartney, You Won't See Me, the Beatles, Rubber Soul, their 6th album. You know, we're talking Please Please Me, all right, With the Beatles, Beatles for Sale, Hard Day's Night, Help, kind of in that order, and then the 6th album, Rubber Soul. Final thoughts about this?
It's a jam for sure. The album is good. It's an easy thing to listen to from front to back. And yeah, I like You Won't See Me where it's at on the UK version. That's the one that is in my streaming platform the easiest to get to. So I got to the album and hit play. I didn't find out there was 2 different sequences and track lists until after that. I was too busy jamming. So vocals, man. Background vocals, we're both suckers for it, but again, it's well executed. It sounds the way it's supposed to sound. And yeah, Paul getting his hurt out. He getting his hurt on the track. So it's a lot of good things going on this record. It deserves to be on the record. And like we always talk about, we have so many records that we love. And this is one of them that deserves the love, man. Like, this is one of your records, and you showed a lot of restraint waiting this long to get it on here, but it's on there now, and this is where it should be.
That's right. You said it all. We even did a Beatles song before this, Sexy Sadie. But I was like, no, let's hold off. And here we are, a Paul McCartney-driven track. I'm going to have to do George next. I don't know when. But how can they get a hold of us, Arthur, to talk about some You Won't See Me or any prior episodes that we've done thus far?
Well, once we post these episodes, I mean, they're on Amazon Music, they're YouTube, Apple Podcasts, they're all over in that space. on the social media. We're on Blue Sky. We're on the X. We're on Facebook as well. So we're not too hard to find. We're around jamming, wanting to talk about the jams, and getting some more jams organized too. Figuring out what we're putting on the record next.
So anywhere where you can find us, if they have some type of ranking or writing a review, please write some positive ones for us so it can trigger those algorithms, and then it'll try to find people who would be interested in the subject matter so we can grow our audience, because we want to talk about music. So until next time, keep your lamplight trimmed and burning.
And keep on jamming.